Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy, and it looks like the Supreme Court may be hearing a case to overturn gay marriage. That, and they had already overturned another big ruling. We're going to get into both those cases. We got some Canadian and Mexican news as well. It seems like the North American poll has just been blowing up lately.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully not literally. So should we start with gay marriage?
Yeah, let's start with gay marriage. That was the cover story.
Alex Jones breaking: the United States Supreme Court could soon examine overturning same-sex gay marriage after exhausting every possible radical left narrative. The Democrats finally possess a new distraction to rally their liberal base against American populism.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. They could just keep, instead of gay marriage, have civil unions for gay people, which will give them tax benefits and every other benefit they kind of need. That being said, going into the next election, this is going to be hard because you're going to be uniting a bunch of coalitions on the left and a lot of moderate coalitions or moderate gays and women against the Republican Party. So, man, they've already done abortion, which was huge. I'm glad they did that. But if they do this as well, it is going to really unite a fury on the left.
And the thing is, with this decision, very similar to the Roe versus Wade decision that the Supreme Court made, it was made in such a way that they didn't do it properly. They didn't do the right steps they needed to.
Yeah, the thing was, let me go to this one. The thing was, this was actually done by a court clerk that was refusing to file gay marriage certificates about a decade ago or something like that.
Yes,
so eventually that went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled, or not the Supreme Court ruled on it, the state court ruled on it, and it had become law, but it's not the way it should have become law. The Supreme Court needs to actually rule on it. That's the way the abortion was kind of overturned, and they're going along the same lines for this. It was bad case law that kind of made the ruling for gay marriage and bad case law that made the ruling for abortion. It looks like both of those may be overturned now. The one has already been overturned.
So should we see what Alex Jones has to say?
Yeah.
Will Supreme Court overturn gay marriage? Supreme Court could overturn its landmark 2015 ruling that established a nationwide right to same-sex marriage if a case addressing the matter is brought before it. I don't know. I mean, it might, but I think it'll, whether it goes down or not, this is going to be a great distraction piece because the Democrats will have to focus all their attention on this.
Oh, that's good. I just wanted to kind of get the headline because this was a little bit older of a war room when he was still on there.
Yeah,
but,
I was going to say is.
But it's coming up.
You're back.
But it's coming up now. So they're actually supposed to hear it on Monday. They're going to decide on Monday whether they're going to hear the case and go forward with it. That's why it's kind of making headlines in the news again. The Supreme Court does have the right to kind of turn it down. It's a definite possibility they may.
So from the AP, Supreme Court weighs long shot appeal, according to them, to overturn decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide in the United States. And a call to overturn the landmark Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide is on the agenda Friday for the justices' closed-door conference, so today. Among the new cases the justices are expected to consider is a long-shot appeal from Kim Davis, the former Kentucky court clerk who refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples following the court's 2015 ruling in Obergefell versus Hodges. Davis had been trying to get the court to overturn a lower court order for her to pay $360,000 in damages and attorney's fees to a couple whom she denied a marriage license to. The justices could say as early as Monday what they'll do. In urging the court to take up her case, Davis's lawyers repeatedly invoked the words of Justice Clarence Thomas, who alone among the 9 justices has called for erasing the same-sex marriage ruling.
Yeah, and that being said, I have a gut feeling they're not going to hear the case. This is going to be too much uproar, but if they do, it's going to be interesting because Donald Trump was the first president to openly support gay marriage. Barack Obama didn't do it. Bill Clinton didn't do it. A lot of Democrats thought those presidents did. No, they didn't. They didn't do it until after they were elected and won the election. Donald Trump actually supported gay marriage in the run-up to his election. So I think if it is overturned, you're going to have Donald Trump kind of come in and at least grant civil unions through executive order or something. He may even outright grant gay marriage through executive order.
And the thing is, I think, I don't know, I can't speak for most American citizens, but there being a difference between marriage as in the institution of marriage and marriage as in the rights and privileges that it offers you in a legal sense to like outwardly towards the country that you're in.
Yeah, a lot of people think the government shouldn't be involved in marriage in any way, shape, or form. It should be the church and the church alone. I tend to agree with that, but I do understand there are legal benefits. I think civil unions should be the legal representation of what marriage is in the government's eyes. So if you get married in the eyes of the church or a private institution, you can then go to the government to reconfirm a civil union, so you get tax benefits and other things. So I wouldn't actually mind marriage in general.
Because then it would be like separating the word institution marriage from civil union. Everybody gets a civil union. If you go to church or another religious institution, you get marriage. But under the eyes of the law and of the nation, you are in a civil union, even though you're married if you got married in church.
Yeah, and I think that would be great.
And that would be equal for everybody.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't be called marriage until you're married in a church.
Yeah, exactly.
For a lot of people. But in another maybe indication of where this could go, the Supreme Court also dealt a major blow to the LGBTQ madness, says Eric Doherty, kicking transgenderism off of the U.S. passport, a win for Donald Trump. Male, female, that's it, folks.
Yeah, so this was big. He had done this through, I believe, executive order before, so it was coming down, but the Supreme Court has backed him up and ruled on this. The Supreme Court seems to be siding with Donald Trump quite a lot. Why is that? Because a lot of these laws and precedents were set upon bad case law. Even though they sided with him here and they sided with him on the abortion issue and other things, the thing is they're hearing the tariff case right now, and early next year, their ruling's going to come back on that. And that's the one thing that matters more than anything. That will really determine the next election or not, because the economy will absolutely fall apart if they rule against Donald Trump and his right to legalize tariffs.
And with this one, as it says here, this case concerns an executive branch policy requiring that all new passports display an individual's biological sex at birth, which is the way it probably should be. There are only two sexes. You can pretend and have multiple personalities, do whatever you want to your body, as long as you don't try to indoctrinate little children or anybody else into it. But in official documents and for health reasons even, it is important still to recognize that there are two biological sexes, even for the person that is requiring for that to be changed. Under the law and under medicine, and science, it is important to still have that recognition of the actual true sex of the person.
Yeah, we don't have to tap dance around it. They need to have the biological sex of the individual on the passport for a lot of legal reasons. If somebody goes on vacation, breaks the law, gets arrested in another country, they need to know if it's a male or a female by the documentation and not having to do complete strip searches and everything else.
And we saw it during the Olympics. A lot of the people that were being able to compete as whatever sex they felt like were able to do so because the Olympics committee said, oh, whatever it says on the passport, that's what they are. So if their country or anybody helps them change that, then they're not actually being fair and being living in reality.
And this is going to help avoid a big controversy when the Olympics do come up. I still think it's going to be a big controversy because a lot of nations are going to try to smuggle male athletes as female into the Olympics. Donald Trump says that's a no-go. That's not happening, but he has to be able to verify who these people are by their passports. So I think there's going to be extra scrutiny at the border and on people's passports when the Olympics come to Los Angeles in just a couple of years.
Next year, isn't it?
I believe it is next year, yeah.
And we also from the States have this from Marian Alfal, says VP Vance, a federal judge can tell the president how to run a shutdown.
Yeah, we'll play this clip. And this is why J.D. Vance is the front runner for president. He knows how to deal with the media and speak straightforward, yet honestly.
I'm always fumbling for my headphones.
Mr. President, a federal judge said tonight that the administration has to fully fund SNAP. It's the latest in the back and forth, and the Justice Department said they're going to appeal it. What's your message to folks as they work this out in the courts and in Congress as we're heading into Thanksgiving?
You want to go with it? Pause it real quick?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and the courts there's a government shutdown in the United States. Everybody probably knows that, but radical judges are starting to step up and trying to tell the president how to run the presidency during a shutdown. A lot of what they're trying to tell him to do is actually illegal. So if he goes ahead and does it, they can then press charges or try to impeach the president upon that. So they're really in a catch-22 here, no matter what Trump does. J.D. Vance had an excellent response, though.
Look, Jackie, it's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown, which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP, and we can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation. We're trying to keep as much turned on. We're trying to keep as much going as possible. The president and the entire administration are working on that, but we're not going to do it under the orders of a federal judge. We're going to do it according to what we think we have to do to comply with the law, of course, but also to actually make the government work for people in the midst of the Democrat government shutdown. If they would like to end this, we would welcome working with them to end this government shutdown, and then we wouldn't have to triage what we're going to fund and what we're not going to fund. And the last thing that I'll say is the American people are unfortunately about to start suffering some very real consequences because of the shutdown. In the past, when you had a government shutdown, you would have, under the Obama administration, they would lean into all of the problems it was going to cause for the American people at the beginning of the shutdown. The president has told us to keep as much going as humanly possible. But after 30 days of this thing, 40 days of this thing, you're going to start seeing very real travel delays. That's because the Democrat government shut down. You're going to start seeing SNAP benefits run out. That's because the Democrat government shut down. They should stop this charade and open up the government. That's what we want them to do. We've been asking them to do it for 40 days. It's time.
And one of the
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting what the
Oh, wait,
Democrat.
what did Trump say after?
thing, our country has to remain very liquid because problems, catastrophes, wars, could be anything. We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask, gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And it's many times the number of people are on. That wasn't.
Okay, and it's going to be very interesting what happens with the shutdown. The Democrats are demanding health care benefits for illegal immigrants. Trump's taking a hard line, no, and that would be a clean CR. Trump is trying to do what they've done for the last God knows how many years. When the Democrats and Republicans can't agree on something, neither side has to give anything, and they just continue the resolution. It's called a clean CR. The Democrats are demanding over $1 trillion in illegal health care funds be kind of dished out to illegal immigrants. So.
And we have also been talking about the filibuster, ending it, ways in which Trump could help do some more stuff, and the dangers and the plans that the Democrats have had to try to end the filibuster as well. I know somebody that nobody wants to remember, but apparently she's going to make a run for it again if she can, is Kamala Harris, who promised to scrap the filibuster so Democrats could enact the $93 trillion Green New Deal.
Yeah, and these clips are just going around. I had trouble. I'm the one that gathers the clips for the show usually, and I had trouble. What clips did I want to use? There's so many Democrats talking about they wanted it in the filibuster. The last time they were in, they were unable to do it because they didn't even have enough votes to do that. They're saying if they get back in, they're going to do it. Yesterday, we showed Barack Obama. Here we're showing Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom's came out. I mean, you name a Democrat, they all say they're going to take the filibuster away the next time they get in. So it's up to Trump now to do it before they can and actually enact real change so he can possibly deliver on the promises that he kind of made during his campaign.
And so hopefully the Democrats can get back in after and use it to do all the bad stuff they want to do.
Well, maybe before we go into this clip, we can talk, because we're going past J.D. Vance now, and J.D. Vance is the main candidate for 2028, and it looks like it's going to be him and Rubio running for 2028. I think that's a good ticket if you want to really appeal to the largest audience possible. JD Vance is a great talker. The problem is Marco Rubio is a huge, huge neocon. A lot of the younger generation do not like him, and JD Vance has a lot of strange ties to the modern military-industrial complex. And if you combine him with somebody like Marco Rubio, who is a traditional neocon, they kind of want to bring the modern conservative movement after Trump back to what it was before. And I don't think a lot of the younger generation wants that. And we're kind of seeing that infighting between them going after Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro on another side, along with a bunch of big money conservative donors kind of coming in and trying to want to bring the movement back to what it was before Donald Trump got there. And the thing is, I'm going to say this, the main principle of the new populist movement has to be no war. If the Democrats get in there, they're 100% going to go to war. And why? Because they have the women vote, they have the gay vote. The one vote that is turning against them en masse is the young male vote and the male vote in general. If they can start a huge war, send massive amounts of troops over there, they're just going to call a bunch of young men. So the voting demographics will always be in their favor. And I think they'll continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about since the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the way that his funeral was done or his memorial was done, it became very clear from the whole 5 hours that Trump was almost like an afterthought and that he is towards the end of being the leader of the MAGA movement. But because he's leaving such a huge space and huge gap open with a lot of people that still want to support it, we will continue, I think, to see this infighting and this. And you said one of the most important things of the conservative populist movement should be no wars, but before that, it should be free speech.
Yeah, free speech and no wars.
And that is what a lot of the people that are infighting want to start doing. They want to start censoring those that have uncomfortable ideas. And if we let that side win, then with it goes free speech.
Well, we also see Europe trying to put this whole Russian war on pause. Even if they end up losing that war, they want to re-engage after whoever wins the next election. If that's the Democrats, 100% they're going at that war. But if Marco Rubio is in there and he has any kind of say, there's a chance there are going to be some very large wars. The new big tech military industrial complex has really backed JD Vance since the beginning of his career. I do like JD Vance, and his actions has shown he's anti-war, but big money is really starting to get his claws into him. So you're going to have to question based upon who his vice president or running mate's going to be. And I don't think Marco Rubio is a good candidate for that, although it will get you the entire Hispanic demographic to vote for that ticket. Unless AOC gets in there, then maybe you have...
God, no. I think most Latinos and Hispanics have more sense than that, I hope. And they remember where they came and they remember where they came from, a lot of them.
Co-founded by our own Van Jones. Senator Michael, what's your question?
Good evening, Senator Harris.
Hey, Michael.
We knew moving towards a green economy for all is critical for our planet. As we make the transition from dirty diesel and coal.
And what we're trying to mainly look at on this clip is at the very end, she kind of leans up on it, and then at the very end just hits with it, how she's going to take down the filibuster if she's in office again.
Our industry workers, many of whom voted for Donald Trump in the last election, may fear losing their jobs, benefits, and ability to provide for their families. How will you work across the aisle to support all workers and build trust with Republican constituents dependent on a fossil fuel economy?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Michael. I think that, first of all, let me just tell you, I think about this issue through the lens of my baby nieces, who are 1.5 and 3 years old. And when I look at those babies, and I think about what the world will be like in 20 years if we don't act,
and I just don't want to get dinged, so I want to talk a few times. That being said, it's between her and Gavin Newsom, and AOC's kind of coming up. She has a big chance to actually be the candidate again, and I think that would be a huge mistake. Madani can't be the candidate because he wasn't born here.
It would be I'm guessing, a good mistake for Republicans, maybe. So maybe put her in there.
Really afraid. And as it relates to those Republicans in Congress, where I've now been for 2.5 years, every one of those members needs to look at the babies, the grandbabies in their life, and then look in the mirror and ask themselves, why have they failed to act? Because on the issue of this climate crisis, I'm going to tell you, I strongly believe this is a fight against powerful interests. and leaders need to lead. So
Yeah, and she is right. It is a fight against powerful interests, although powerful interests are trying to virtue signal with this climate agenda and consolidate power, consolidate money, rig the new world economy with climate credits, carbon capture, and all this other bullshit. They want to choose who the winners and losers are. Donald Trump stood up in front of the UN, kind of knocked that idea down. Bill Gates and a lot of people are kind of backing off of this one. They're realizing this green scam is possibly coming to an end, or they at least have to wait Donald Trump out. This is why we can't have a Democrat in the office after Trump.
lead, follow, or get out the way, and get out the way starting with Donald Trump. So yeah, we need to work across the aisle. But I'm going to tell you, I've been there now 2 years and some months. I'm seeing no evidence of it. I'm seeing, I kid you guys not. In our United States Congress, I was part of a committee hearing during which the underlying premise of the hearing was to debate whether science should be the basis of public policy. This on a matter that is about an existential threat to who we are as human beings. So again, back to the United States Congress, here's my point. If they fail to act as President of the United States, I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal.
And that would just be the first thing. Other Democrats have already said they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. Washington, D.C. is going to be a state. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. There was another clip I was going to put in today's show, but I didn't. They said they want to pack the court with 4 more Supreme Court justices. How they're going to do that is if they get rid of the filibuster. At this point, the Democrats have made it clear they're getting rid of the filibuster and they're going to push forward all their agenda because Donald Trump kind of threw a monkey wrench in their plans. And the only way to get things back on the timeline they want is to get rid of the filibuster and win the next election. Trump needs to do it before they do. I was actually against getting rid of the filibuster at first. So many Democrats have come out now and said that's their number one priority if they get back in office. Trump needs to do it so he can pass his agenda.
And something the Democrats are getting rid of, but she might get a cushy job doing something that she does very well and has mainly just distracted her for the past few years from doing her job, luckily in a way. From Eric Doherty, Scott Jennings says President Trump should hire Nancy Pelosi in retirement to manage American stock market portfolios because she beat the S&P 500 by 559%. We could all be retired in 6 months.
Well, here's the thing. Nancy Pelosi is a criminal. You can look at her stock portfolio. You can look at how her and her husband were literally lining her pockets with millions of dollars while she's been in office the last God knows how many decades. Why is she going to resign now? Because they're starting to indict a lot of prominent Democrats who have broken the law, that thought they were above the law. She's probably going to leave the country and go to a country where they're not going to be able to prosecute her. That's my bet. So
hopefully not. Hopefully she can get prosecuted. But in the meantime, she can continue to, trade and make a lot of money for herself.
She made them really angry, but at the end of the day, there was often grudging respect for some of the skills that she brought to the table.
Oh, yeah. There were people who respected her legislative ability and, being a political boss. I mean, she was the boss of her conference.
Nancy D'Alessandro.
And there is, for political operators, a lot of respect for that. I'll tell you this, I don't know how much we raised over the years off of sending out fundraising appeals based on Nancy Pelosi, but it was a metric butt ton. I'm telling you right now, putting Nancy Pelosi in fundraising mail or fundraising emails would always produce. And by the way, it's not often that someone can become a titan of both Washington and Wall Street. Republicans will remember her as one of the most successful and prolific day traders. She beat the S&P 500 by 559% in her stock portfolio. She's worth a lot of money. She did an amazing job. So what a blow for the financial houses today on Wall Street. I'm sure they're mourning.
Just getting an elbow, right?
Yeah, really trying to get him opposition.
yeah, and it looks like, Mike, like I said, I would not be surprised if she fled the country. She's not going to say she's fleeing the country. She's obviously just going to disappear to a non-extradition country, I would presume. And why is that? Because number one, yeah, she's broken the law over and over again. They're looking directly at her, but she hasn't properly transitioned power. She was the power base of the Democratic Party. She was the kingmaker. She got to decide. Gavin Newsom is her golden boy, and he's supposed to be president next. That's who she wants. Yet she hasn't been able to transfer power over properly. You would have thought she would have stayed in office until he at least made his run at presidency. She's leaving just before he is going to make his run. This makes me think the radical Democratic wing has a really good chance at the next election. Somebody like an AOC. it's really going to be between the radical Democratic wing and Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is trying to moderate his appearance, but without Nancy Pelosi backing him in a big way, publicly, privately, and financially, I don't know if he can do it.
And also with the scandals that continue to crop up in California, even though Californians seem to not care, the rest of the country cares, and it has been exposed over and over again, especially his plans to do with Pacific Palisades after the fire and after not managing the fire, and also his other relationships with other governors and how he's spoken to even the president of the United States and his decisions with the National Guard and everything that were supposed to help California. And he just ended up making a mess of that as well.
Well, Texas has had a huge influx of immigrants into it. And I'm not talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about immigrants immigrating from other states and mainly California. You're having a lot of billionaires, a lot of business people going from California to Texas because Gavin Newsom absolutely destroyed that state. Even Democrats do not like Gavin Newsom at this point. I watch a lot of Democratic debates, and young people just do not like Gavin Newsom.
And then something else that Trump has said recently and has been speaking about, and we also touched on it the other day, is Nigeria. He said, "I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing."
Yeah, this is very interesting. Donald Trump has been talking a big game and really ramping up things with Venezuela. Now he's talking a big game against Nigeria. He just moved some troops out of the waters of Venezuela. A lot of people think he is now backing down or quietly moving troops away. He was trying to pressure Maduro into, I think, stepping down. I don't know if that worked. It doesn't look like it worked at this point. That being said, a lot of people speculate that maybe this is a ploy where he's just going to pull back a few troops and then launch an attack. We will have to wait and see. But if he does pull back from Venezuela, I don't have a lot of confidence he's going to go into Nigeria. He tries to bill himself as an anti-war president. He doesn't mind getting involved in small skirmishes, but a bigger, broader war, especially in Africa, I don't think he really wants. Strategic strike, he could definitely do, but I don't think he's going to go in there guns a-blazing like he's saying.
So then why do you think he's trying to say it?
He's trying to intimidate the Nigerians because they don't have a big army, so he thinks his words are enough. I don't think it is.
We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay. We're going to...
Okay, and we played at 1.25 speed.
Yes, that's why he was talking so fast.
That being said, this plays very well to his Christian base. So even just having these statements come out, it kind of consolidates the Christian base around him, especially when he is getting into so many minor skirmishes around the world, whether it's backing Israel, whether it's the continued Ukraine conflict, whether it's surrounding Venezuela, going against the cartels in Mexico. He doesn't have one big war, but he does have a lot of skirmishes and a lot of pieces on the chessboard right now.
And Walker says, "Hello, Walker.
Oh, good to see you, Walker. I didn't know if anybody was watching today."
Yes, hope you're almost now fully well. Walker says, "I've seen the signs telling internal Californian immigrants to not ruin Texas."
Oh, God, yeah. A lot of people were worried about that. Austin, Texas looks like it has been ruined. That's where a lot of the big money, big tech, and a lot of the business people move to. Joe Rogan owns a lot of that city. Elon Musk owns a lot of that city. Although I like them, a lot of the people from California that have immigrated there are blue voters, and they've turned that city maybe not blue, but deep purple.
And it was already like, oh, Austin is weird. Austin is weird just basically means woke, and it's very artsy, etc. So that undercurrent was there. But since more and more people with those ideologies moved there, it has changed, it seems, a lot. And people that moved there to escape other places like that have continued to move around Texas as well, and to Florida.
A lot of people are realizing that the court system within Austin, Texas specifically has been weaponized against the people of Texas. That's where they got the ruling against Alex Jones. That's where the Democrats bring a lot of their cases. Specifically, if they want to bring a Texas case, they like the jury selection they get there because it's a lot of blue people that came over from other states. And a lot of the judges, which they've placed in there through voting or otherwise, are all blue judges. So it's a weaponized city within a red state like Texas.
And Rafa, hello, Rafa,
good to
says,
see you, Rafa.
hello, Nat Guy and Walker. So now they're saying hi to each other. And Walker also says, USA versus communist regimes in Latin America, my favorite novel since 1960. It's been ongoing and will continue to be ongoing. But in part of it's because of their own influence. So
yeah, but I like the. I've been going a lot into the Catholic Church lately and the hierarchy in the Catholic Church. And man, the Catholic Church really supported communism and socialism against the United States in a lot of wars, a lot of conflicts, and they continue to do that today. The hierarchy of the Catholic Church is just corrupt. It's a shame. A lot of people do not agree with the hierarchy, even if they are Catholic. So, okay, let's go into the next story we got here. And
so we are talking about Latin America, and we are, so thank you, Walker, for helping us do that segue pretty easily. But it's an unfortunate story, and it is something that continues to happen and that recently shook the ground in Mexico, and I hope this one does too. From Oscar Ramirez, Real America's Voice correspondent, says breaking once again, and will continue to be breaking. They just assassinated a councilwoman in San Juan, Oaxaca, Mexico. Her name, Guadalupe Urban. She was intercepted outside her house. Then her body was found lifeless on the side of the car.
Okay, we can leave it there. He's going to talk about it for a minute, but this has to go with the other politician that was recently, his life was ended. There are going to be big protests in Mexico City and probably all across Mexico next Saturday.
And there already have been, since the other mayor was assassinated last Saturday, there's been protests ongoing in Michoacan and elsewhere as well.
So yeah, this is just going to amp things up even more so.
And as he says here, I just want to read that bit before because it's in Spanish, says, but our president says we don't need to go to war with organized crime because that is illegal, and she prefers to continue the hugs and no bullets policy from her predecessor.
Yeah, and I will say this does benefit the United States a lot. You're having a lot of young people and a lot of people in Mexico saying that they want the government to deal with this. The government, the United States is right there demanding that the Mexican government cooperate with them and let U.S. soldiers in. I think a lot of what the tariff deal is going to be dependent on is the cooperation between the Mexican government and the U.S. military. So this definitely helps that narrative and maybe gives Claudia Sheinbaum a little bit cover to cooperate with the U.S. military.
Breaking news. Sadly, another political leader has been murdered in Mexico. Councilwoman Guadalupe Urban Ceballos from San Juan in the state of Oaxaca was just assassinated. According to the official report, a group of armed men arrived at her home as she was heading out in her vehicle. She was intercepted, dragged out, and later on found lifeless on the side of the road. Her attackers shot her multiple times. The municipal government condemned the killing, describing her as a committed public servant who worked for the people as she was a member of the PBEM political party. But yet, this morning, the president of Mexico once again repeated her now famous line, "We don't need to go to war with the cartels. We need hugs, not bullets. Justice with peace." She even claimed that confronting the cartels militarily will be illegal. But what we're seeing today is exactly what a narco government looks like. Just look at this horrible situation in less than a week. This past Saturday, Mayor Carlos Manso was brutally assassinated in front of his family in Michoacan. In less than a week, around 5 police officers have been killed across the country. And now, hours ago, an elected councilwoman is intercepted by cartel gunmen and executed. I'll say it before and I will say it again. They're killing the good ones. Insecurity is out of control, and the only people defending this failed government are the fanatics and the incompetent progressive mercenary leftists who refuse to acknowledge the reality of our country. There's no doubt anymore who controls Mexico. And tragically, It is not the good people in government. It is the organized crime. And the world now is watching.
And I will say this, the first person that, the first politician whose life was ended was part of the Moreno party. That is the president's party. Getting rid of him.
He's not the first. The one that was assassinated
Getting rid of him sent a message to her. So she's been coming out with a lot of statements in support of organized crime within Mexico. You have to be thinking the tariff deals hang up has to do with the cartels. I think all the economic components have been kind of ironed out, and a lot of pressure is now being put on her to cooperate with the U.S. military, not just by the U.S., but by
And since Claudia Sheinbaum has come in as president, more than 10 now, because of these two, have been assassinated, but also countless and countless journalists and other people that are speaking up and are trying to highlight and show what's actually happening in the country. And that is where all the anger and rage is coming from. And unfortunately, as always, there are power grabs with these sorts of movements and with this trying to weaponize this sort of anger. And I will continue to say, I am unsure still of who is funding the protest on Saturday. What is the actual purpose? A lot of people are painting it and saying that it is coming from the Gen Zers and from younger people that are fed up. But at the same time, there's others that are trying to, take advantage of that and of that movement. And in Mexico, we need more than just protests and marches and people being angry. There has to be actual solutions and actual education of the people that continue to support this to understand what's actually happening and why it would be bad to support Morena and Claudia Sheinbaum and AMLO.
Yeah, it's easy to make statements like that, and people in the United States can make statements, you can make statements, but it's up to the Mexican people, the youth of this country, to make those statements. I had made a suggestion before why anonymity online was so important. It gives you the ability to speak freely, especially when it comes to politics. If there is violence associated with politics within a country, I think a movement of people concealing their identities in Mexico, having debates, having talk, and being able to speak freely on social media is going to be very important if they actually do want a change.
Mm-hmm. But actually speaking and actually doing something other than just that one day where everybody gets to the streets and starts marching.
But I will say this. A lot of people say they can't speak, but nobody has really put forth the component of keeping yourself anonymous while speaking out online. I think that is really what could spark a movement and a change within Mexico, not just with that issue, but with a lot of issues. People just do not want to talk politics here in Mexico because of this. They're scared of what can happen to them and their family and the repercussions and even the what can happen socially. So rising up through social media, anonymous accounts, going on YouTube, but going anonymously, even using voice changers, having debates, putting your thoughts out there of what's right or wrong, or what's the future of Mexico. We need to have a conversation so the best ideas come to the top. There needs to be free speech. Supposedly there's free speech in Mexico, but people are afraid to utilize it. So if they're afraid to utilize it, you can do that anonymously online, I think.
And I've also said, even not just online, but just talking to people that are around you, people that are different than you, people that are waiting for the bus with you, people that are in the metro with you, your Uber driver, whatever, if you're Uber passengers, whoever you can talk to about what is actually going on. Because I think there's more and more people that agree with each other, but don't want to speak up or have prejudices. And we have to get rid of those as well.
Well, also supporting people like us or other Mexican content creators online that are speaking about politics, giving views, likes, and subscriptions. It kind of is what happened in the United States. Mm-hmm. This is why you've seen people like Tim Pool, other voices kind of come up and really start a movement in the United States. It's because people started supporting content creators. The youth and a lot of people within Mexico are just disengaged from politics. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people that talk politics online in Mexico, maybe
older,
don't have the same leverage they had in the United States when the populist movement came up in the United States. So if you see a lot more interest in political talk and supporting content creators in Mexico, I think you could have a movement happen here, like what happened in the United States with Trump and stuff.
Because I think more and more people are actually fed up and actually ready to do something, but they don't know what to do. And the only options that we have and the only people that are trying to do something are also interested in the power that comes with that forming a movement, forming a party. And that is the last thing we need. People trying to just get power through the anger and the frustration, and actually people that want to do something regardless of how much power they get or don't get.
Yeah, and we were talking about Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance and how this needs to be an anti-war free speech movement, and we have to continue in the vein of populism when it comes with conservatism. And we're talking about neocons trying to take over the movement again after Trump's gone. They're already preparing for that. The problem is here in Mexico, it's always been a neocon movement. That's why they like Marco Rubio so much here, and they like candidates like Marco Rubio here and support them
in the conservative side.
In the conservative side, yeah. So that populist movement and the young people just really hasn't taken root or haven't had a voice here. They've had it on the left, just not on the right.
Yes, and almost doesn't exist because here in Mexico, conservative is an insult that even the president uses frequently. So people don't even know what conservative or right or far right means. Walker says, in my opinion, they should have taken ownership of all those people who have fallen on a cultural and academic level with documentaries, reports, research, etc. If they don't, the left will distort them and use them as well. And also the desperation that people have. That is why the left in a lot of countries in Latin America has such a strong and powerful hold upon people, especially those in desperate situations, because they just hand them money.
Well,
but they hand them money that the country doesn't even have.
Money goes a long way in Mexico. It's not like in the United States. $10,000 or $20,000 within a political movement or a rally goes a lot further here than it would in the United States or a country like Canada. And again, supporting content creators that speak about politics in Mexico, when you get view counts and those content creators do get a little bit of money behind them, and they start investing in getting political messaging out about different subject matters.
And their own political messaging out. They're not captured by a party, or they're not affiliated with a party. That's why I continue to say I don't support anybody in any party.
It's an alternate source of revenue so people can stay true to their values and beliefs. Usually in other countries, outside money comes in and they're buying people's views and beliefs. In the United States, we've seen with that populist movement, a lot of independent creators just had a big view count, which gave them a lot of money from YouTube, which they then reinvested in documentaries and other things, which really spurred on a complete change in U.S. politics.
And that continues to be our plan here at Nat and The Guy as well. Hopefully one day. And thank you, Walker and Rafa, for all your support and for being here and all your comments. Let's move on to Tesla. From Marian Offwall, your new BFF, Tesla shareholders unleash Elon $1 trillion pay package approved with 75% mandate. Tesla shareholders just gave Elon the keys to history. Over 75% voted yes on a compensation package worth up to $1 trillion. The crowd erupted, Elon, echoing through the room.
Yeah, so he's being offered $1 trillion, but this is based upon if he can grow the company hundreds of percentage. So this would benefit everybody. It sounds like a lot of money, but they're putting mandates on him they've never put on any company before. Now, can he do it? I think so. He has three big tricks in the bag. Do you know what those big three products are?
The cell phone, the robot, some spaceship.
Yeah, so he's got the Tesla phone, which will go straight to satellite and be able to completely avoid censorship. And if he distributes that worldwide, along with the Everything app that can be integrated into that cell phone as well, that is a $1 trillion idea. The second is the robots, although he has had some speed bumps recently. That seems to be coming along, and it seems to be far more advanced than any other company. And third, he was just on Joe Rogan talking about this, and it's the new Tesla car. Have you heard about this?
No.
He says it's a flying car. And he says it's going to be released next year, or at least
flying car released next year.
Debut next year, yeah.
Most people crash against things on the ground. Imagine flying cars.
But those are three extremely innovative products that there's nothing like it right now. I mean, the cell phone's the closest thing that there's something like it, but because it's direct to satellite, and he does have X, and he has been so anti-censorship, it would have a big following.
And a big impact, hopefully. And it says Elon has to hit 12 audacious milestones, market cap targets, revenue goals, profitability benchmarks. Every dollar is tied to him executing what he says he's going to do. And he'll become the world's first trillionaire if it works. And then Marian Offwall says capitalism at its purest.
Well, yeah.
So it's not like they're just giving it to him. They're saying, go do something great with this money. And he has had successes, but also failures. Let's remember what's that truck thing called? The Tesla truck? The Cybertruck. That did not go as well as everybody planned.
Yeah, but I think you have to remember nothing went as planned. So SpaceX was a big failure in the beginning. He had to have a ton of rockets blow up before he started landing them. And that Cybertruck may look like a failure now, but the amount he had learned on that, I think the Cybertruck going forward in the next few iteration and generations are going to be vastly improved. Also, by offering him $1 trillion in compensation if he can grow the company, what does that do? That makes the cell phone, that makes the robot, that makes the flying car all stay within the Tesla brand. Because usually each one of those products, you would start a company on its own and a completely different company. But by offering them big compensation packages, these innovative products get kept within the Tesla brand, which will literally grow the company thousands of percentage points.
And Walker says, furthermore, the right didn't care at all about culture and education. The left appropriated it. They thought a good Excel spreadsheet showing the country's growth was more important than culture. And then he had written either the narrative or the story killed the facts or killed reality. And that is exactly what happened. And yes, the right for the longest time, or the conservatives for the longest time, had let culture and education slip through the cracks and down the wayside. And it's still happening here in Mexico. They're still just concerned about money and the economy and etc. And the whole culture war and the thing that people continue to talk about here in Latin America, la batalla cultural, the culture war, is the most important thing. As Rush Limbaugh used to say, politics is downstream from culture, and that continues to be true, especially here. And we're just losing that battle as well.
Well, the Christian nationalist movement is really up on the uprise within social media and within America itself. And I think that's going to have a huge cultural impact on Mexico and Latin American countries, even more so. The problem is they got to work this thing out with the Catholic Church. It's a globalist organization. And a lot of what Christian nationalists are espousing are antithetical to what the hierarchy of the Catholic Church is actually preaching. So it's going to be interesting because you already see Christian nationalism kind of taking root in Mexico in the conservative movement here.
Sort of, in a different way, but yes. Walker actually wrote out what he wanted to say. He said they thought the data kills the narrative. In reality, the narrative killed the data. And that's what they wanted. And they were very good propagandists and continue to be
well, a lot of
globalist
money was flowing through NGOs all around the world, especially into Mexico and Latin America. And that's why the left has such deep roots here. A little bit of money went a long way, and they were actually investing a lot of money, and it seems to be permanently enrooted here.
But also, the left always changes their narrative, has no more grounding moral values or virtues or anything. And someone that exemplifies that very well, because he speaks out of both his mouth and his other behind pole, is Bernie Sanders from Western Landsmen. Bernie Sanders in 2025 says the filibuster is an important part of what the Senate is. Right now, we should maintain the filibuster. But back in 2022, he was angrily demanding to end the filibuster to save American democracy.
Yeah, and there must have been 10 clips of prominent Democrats, like I said, all saying we're taking down the filibuster, or last time they were in power wanting to get rid of the filibuster. Bernie Sanders is just another example of that. Donald Trump needs to get rid of the filibuster now. The problem is these rhino Republicans are refusing to back him.
And they only say things when they're convenient to them.
The Republicans understand that the filibuster is an important part of what the Senate is. Well, I think right now we should maintain the filibuster.
But let's be clear. This enormously important bill, a bill to protect the foundations of American democracy, will fail. It will fail because, according to Senate rules, it will require 60 votes to pass, and in a 50-50 Senate, not one Republican will vote for it. My Republican colleagues who are so adamantly against changing rules, well, my goodness, they changed the Senate rules to allow 50 votes to confirm the president's nominees to the Supreme Court. Oh, my goodness, how shocking. Rules get changed around here all of the time. And maybe, just maybe, we might want to change the rules in order to save American democracy.
Okay, and what we have to realize here is Donald Trump is pushing to get rid of this filibuster, but the Rhino Republicans are refusing. Why? Because Donald Trump really ran on a populist platform, and if he delivers on that, they're not going to be able to bring it back to Republican in name only neocon thinking after Trump is gone. They're already preparing for when Trump's gone. And if Trump is able to deliver on his promises by getting rid of this filibuster, there's no way the youth of America are going to go back to the old conservative movement.
And it could go the way that the UK is going right now. And even a really old veteran that spoke out recently in British TV was able to recognize that and the state of the country that the UK is in, saying, but from Inevitable West, British veteran breaks down live on TV over state of the country. Rows and rows of white tombs for what? A country of today? No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result. I fought for freedom, and it's darn sight worse now than when I fought.
Yeah, and this is the thing that's kind of happening right now. There's actually quite a few of these clips. Really old veterans are coming out saying they're absolutely disgusted with the countries they're living in right now, and that's not what they fought for.
Yeah.
What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye those rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though? At this point?
What we fought for is darn sight worse than what it was when I fought for it.
Oh, Alec, I'm sorry you feel like that, because I want you to know that all the...
And this old man can stand up and say this. It's up to the youth to kind of stand up to this government and this authoritarian rule right now. It's not just left versus right. It's authoritarian versus freedom. And people that believe in freedom need to start standing up for it. As women get more and more voting power and start voting together, they're going to vote for security every single time.
Mm-hmm. Safety and security.
Safety and security. America was based up, and the UK and a lot of other countries were based upon freedoms. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame to see that going into the dust.
Also in Europe, from Eva Vlardingerbrock, I kind of learned how to say her name, but I really like her. Go follow her. She's great. European commentator and political scientist, I think. Yet another European patriot has been charged with inciting racial hatred simply for showing the reality of mass immigration. French patriot and father of three, Jean-Hugues has been jailed for posting a video you guys can see in the subtweet below, where he shows how Afghan migrant gangs are now popping up in small villages in the countryside of France as well.
Okay, let's leave it here. Now, I'm showing this for a very, very specific reason, and there's a movement kind of emerging right now, not only in France, but other places where censorship is becoming really, really evident. We just seen what happened with the flags, where the Raise the Flag movement in the UK made world headlines, and it made a huge difference and got recognition from the government. This is another movement that's now coming up. People are walking around their city and showing what's going on with immigrants, with homelessness, and within crime, and the government doesn't like it, so they're coming around and arresting the people that are making these posts. So it's important that we have a small channel, so we're able to repost this, but other people can repost and help these people on their social media. Also, if people don't want to put themselves like he did on their social media, they can just walk around their city and show it without actually outing who they are. And that's going to be huge to kind of fight authoritarian rule within France, the UK, and the rest of Europe.
And she says, this is our reality. If you speak out against or even just show what the Great Replacement looks like, they throw you in jail. Incredible. And I believe it is in French, but and the images are the important
I was
part.
kind of, I grabbed it because I think this is the first of a lot of social media posts that are going to be coming out of people exposing what's going on in their country. The government's trying to get these posts taken off of social media and arrest these people. So it's very important these things get reposted.
Salut à tous, vous voyez, là je suis dans la ville dans laquelle j'ai grandi, 10 000 habitants je crois, et depuis quelques années maintenant, tous les soirs, on est comme ça, voilà, à la sortie, on se demande un peu ce qui se passe, mais en gros, tu as des réfugiés afghans qui traînent, voilà, toujours au Leclerc, on fait de la bouffe, rien.
And he's just kind of, oh, that's good for the clip. And he's just kind of pointing out immigrants and he's talking about his thoughts and feelings about it. And it's important this gets out there, especially since they're arresting people, 12,000 people in the UK for memes alone. A video like this is going to carry a hefty sentence.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of hefty sentences, and in Canada, and it's a sad sentence because it is against animals, and it's a story we kind of reported on it, but it went back and forth, so we didn't fully finish reporting on it. But Chet Roon says, shame on you, Canada. Today, the CFIA will kill all these beautiful birds at the Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood. The Supreme Court will not even listen to the case. These ostriches have antibodies that can help cure so many diseases, and they're also animals. So
yeah, they were saying they had a disease, not a disease, and they tested them. They had it, but protesters were able to hold this off for like 6 months to a year. They were asking the ostriches to be retested. They refused to retest it. Donald Trump and RFK kind of came in, said, we'll take the ostriches off of your hands. That was the death sentence at that point. The Canadian government and the Canadian people have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, so bad. They said they would rather kill the ostriches than give them to Trump, which is crazy.
This is what pain looks like. You want to know what pain looks like, Canada? Right. She's gonna lose everything she's ever loved for 35 years that are healthy. She's gonna lose everything she's loved. That's what pain looks like when the government fails you. And you remember that. Shame on you, Canada. Shame on you, government. Shame on you, Heath McDonald and everybody who had the chance to do the right thing. Shame on you. She's going to lose everything that she loves.
And this was a big story in Canada. We just hadn't reported on it. I was kind of waiting for the final conclusion to come here. It's come, and the government is just really implementing more authoritarian rule. There was a simple solution: just retest the ostriches. It was obvious they weren't sick anymore, and they were just refused to do it because RFK had come in and offered to take the ostriches.
And because Canada wants to be right. And right now, the Prime Minister of Canada also continues to always want to be right. From Canada, Carney continues to point out that Canada's economic relationship with the U.S. is over, admit that's now Canada's weakness, and says Canada's economic strategy needs to change ASAP. And what's then the context of, in the context of the budget, but who is responsible for this rupture and for the ads that were, going up against the U.S.?
So we've seen him use this language before, but he continues to use this language. It's almost like this is his Bach speech now, that we're against the U.S. We're no longer cooperating with the U.S. They are going to fall off an economic cliff if they continue this insanity. And him continuing to talk like this makes me think he is moving closer and closer to China.
But China's already in Canada. It's already super.
No, he wants a tariff deal with China, not the United States.
I know.
Technological change is accelerating rapidly. The world has become more dangerous and divided. And that decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship between Canada and the United States is over. And as a consequence of particularly that last point, many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our vulnerabilities. And this is happening fast. This is not a transition, it's a rupture. And it means that our economic strategy needs to change dramatically and rapidly. And that's the context. That was the context for Tuesday's budget, the first of our government.
And it's funny that he's saying that, it's completely over, it's ruptured. However, he did move his own company, Brookfield Asset Management, to the U.S. right before he became prime minister and started doing all the stupidity he continues to do.
Well, I actually have an update on that. He's currently going through an economic investigation. They're looking into his assets. They tried to call the executives from Brookfield Asset Management, and they're refusing to go testify in front of the Canadian courts because there are some shady dealings going on here.
Because of course.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's not surprising. And speaking of shady dealings and idiots in California, from Kevin Dalton, Gavin Newsom, law enforcement has recovered $190 million in stolen property since 2023. But the reality is there's been more than $25 billion in retail theft since 2023 in California. And Gavin just got back 0.76% of it. Also, reality, Gavin Newsom has spent $267 million fighting retail theft since 2023. so not recovered any of the investment put in.
Yeah, so he's a slick talker and he's completely destroyed California, but listening to him, it's just like this particular topic. He's going to build it up like he actually did something when he's destroying California as we speak.
So get ready for those campaign speeches.
We need to hold folks to account, but we'll do it in a thoughtful and judicious way. We're not going back to the way things were in the 80s and 90s, at least not while I'm here.
You guys are really awesome. Thank you so much for your business. Thank you so much.
We want to go after those organized teams of folks. Enforcement is critical. Accountability is critical. And let me just make this point. There's no free ride. You can't smash a window. We need to hold folks to account, but we'll do it in a thoughtful and judicious way. We're not.
Yeah, and he had legalized anything under $1,000. You weren't allowed to arrest people in the state of California. So
yes, and because that is how Democrats work, and that is how Democrats see everything, and Trump knows it because they're trying to do it and continue to try to do it with voting as well. From Bo Loden, breaking, President Trump just said Democrats only don't want voter ID because they cheat. All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. And we also, with this, after we watch him say it, have to talk about digital ID. And hopefully that's not the way they're trying to go with all of this voter ID thing.
I really do think Trump is trying to sell this voter ID, and they're going to implement it, voter ID, as a digital ID, and they're going to try to slip it in at the last minute. And if that's the case, I am completely against it. I am all for voter ID, just not in a digital form. And people need to stand up if that's what Trump tries to smuggle in at the end.
And he's also a little bit too friendly with Larry Ellison, who has big plans about digital ID.
But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. But can you...
Okay, and this being said, Trump would be happy with just a regular voter ID, but what I think is going to happen is he's going to try to kill two birds with one stone and bring a digital ID on the back of voter ID. But if there is an uproar and a push from his base, he would be happy with just normal voter ID, because that would really fix the election system. But in his mind, he's going to try to push for both, I think.
And Walker says, the truth is, I'm terrified that one day something like legalizing theft might happen here in my country. That would be the final nail in the coffin. The country's economy would collapse in a month. And I mean, in El Salvador, they seem to be trying to go the other way. That could be even more against private theft and et
when
cetera.
you have somebody like Bukele coming in, if he's ever pushed out of power and the left comes back in, they're going to go so far the other way. We've seen that happen with Trump. So yeah, I would be very concerned with that in the long term. But Bukele seems to be pretty secure there right now.
We'll see. And Rafa says, why would you give ID in a gas station? To buy
buy cigarettes and liquor. So in the United States, you buy cigarettes and liquor primarily from a gas station.
Gas station?
Yeah, or lottery tickets as well. Those are the big three sellers. That's the only thing that actually makes a profit for most gas stations.
And Walker says the ID should be required for adult things on the internet. That's what the UK tried, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I disagree with that. In theory, it's good, but that's how governments are trying to push through these digital IDs. So although in theory, I would be for it, in practice, I'm absolutely not, because they want to make these digital IDs, and especially because it's online content, it lends itself specifically to digital ID.
Mm-hmm. And the implementation of it doesn't work. But you have been talking a lot about, to me at least, about silver, China, what's going on with that whole issue and market. And you had this story from Alex Jones saying China is refusing to send its silver to London to fulfill orders. This action will trigger a run on silver when silver supplies run out.
Yeah, a lot's going on with the London banking system right now and the Chinese banking system. Actually, China is making huge gold vaults around the world in all the BRICS countries so they can pay in yen, and then the country itself can exchange those yen for gold, really reinforcing the strength of the yen, or trying to build the strength and trust within the yen amongst a global population. Really backing a currency with a gold-backed standard is going to be huge. I don't know if it's going to work, but there's only so much gold to go around, and now maybe they're looking to secure the yen with silver as well.
Because yeah, we talked about silver a long time ago, even before we had a show, and talking about how the U.S. dollar and a lot of other currencies were not going to be doing good in the next few years, and that's what we've seen.
Well, I had always liked silver more than gold because I thought the price of silver was manipulated by the U.S. government. They always try to keep the price of silver very low because it was used in technologies they manufactured and in military equipment. That being said, gold's not used in quite as many technologies. So silver has the ability to, number one, be used in technologies, but number two, be used as a form of currency as well.
In the last 2 days, China restricted exports of silver out of China. What does that mean? Oh, we can't send it to London. We can't replenish their supplies. See, London has run out of free float silver, which is what's the silver that's available for everybody, manufacturers too, to buy. So they're so short. They're 700 million ounces short. And everyone's making a big deal. It's like, oh yeah, they've sent in some cargo planes. They got 72 million ounces put back into London. They're 700 million ounces short, Alex. Within 2 months, by the end of the year, we probably have silver pushing 67 to 75. And by late spring, early summer, probably 120 to 140. That would be my guess. My crystal ball.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Don't let the little music Jones uses. Hold on.
Yeah. Overall, I do like silver a lot because when they're doing gold mining or anything else, that rock is brought out of the mine and then it's crushed down, and then you're getting gold and silver deposits typically together, and there's usually a lot more silver than gold.
And Walker says, good to know, that's my mistake then. About the adult sites and digital ID and all of that. And
well, I made the same mistake. A lot of people do, because when you first think about the subject and you don't give it first principles and you see what they're trying to push in on the back of these things, they're having to use really sneaky ways to kind of promote digital ID and digital currency to the population. And one of the big ways they were trying was with online censorship for adult sites. And although I do like the idea of that, it gives too much authoritarian control to the governments.
And Rafa says, did you see the Sydney Sweeney interview?
Oh, yeah.
I did.
It was, she said Donald Trump came to her defense.
Oh.
So I like that. Yeah.
Which he did.
I didn't know why I didn't grab it, actually. But
because usually you do those kinds of stories on Thursdays, but last night's show was really long for you. And it was good because it was the first show that you did on the other side of the studio. So
yeah, we had a new studio in the other room, and the coloring came out great because one of the lights had broken just before. I was trying to anyway.
He burnt something.
I was very happy with how the look of the came out. The colors were correct.
And Walker says, I'm not sure Bukele has continuity assured, or at least not to the level that people believe. The situation is complicated, but it'd take too long to explain, and it's not really important because El Salvador.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think a lot of his future, I think a lot of whether it's Milei or Bukele, their future is going to really depend on who wins the next presidential election as well.
In the States?
In the States, yeah. Because they're, Bukele and Milei are good friends with the U.S. administration, and the U.S. administration is trying to put a lot of influence into Central and South America right now and get China out. Yes. They're putting a lot of pressure on Venezuela and Brazil right now. That's kind of the foothold of the BRICS within South America, and the U.S. currently has the foothold of El Salvador and Argentina. So...
And I have heard mostly from Walker about how people might not be as happy as the international community with Bukele as it may seem. And I kind of relate because for the longest time, a lot of people, even from the right in the US and a lot of political commentary people were saying that Claudia Sheinbaum was good and that AMLO was good. But being Mexican and living in Mexico now, it just seems crazy that how distorted it can get from an international lens of what is actually happening in a country.
Yeah, I mean,
so I get it.
When a country is so far gone with crime, you're going to have to literally implement some type of authoritarianism in order to gain that country back for so the people don't feel like they're being held hostage in their country. So yeah, he had to step over a lot of norms, but it seems to, at least from the outside to me, that he has cleaned up that country. But it's very hard in Central and South America because the left is so absolutely entrenched, and the right has only recently come up through Trump, and a lot of the international community does not like him at all. So that's why if they're able to secure a victory in the next election with maybe J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, as much as I'm not excited about Marco Rubio, that would, I think, mean good things for Bukele and Milei.
But from what I remember about Bukele, I guess from what Walker was explaining and what I've seen some other people, local people say, is that the fact that he wanted to change the election laws for re-election or to be able to be there in more perpetuity than he has been, that was what was scary, that he was potentially becoming more authoritarian.
Yeah, and as much as I do like Bukele and Milei, they're both entrenched in a few scandals. I mean, Milei had the Bitcoin scandal. He had the scandal where he was smuggling money to his sister, and then he had a third scandal. I still like him after all that. I think those are smaller scandals, and if you put somebody else in there, they're going to be even more corrupt. And as far as Bukele, yeah, I do like him, but I do understand that he's trying to consolidate power.
And that's the problem with anybody that tries to do something good, but then gets too excited about the power part. Rafa says, there are awesome memes from that interview, the Sydney Sweeney interview. She refused to apologize for the jeans ad. Good.
Yeah, that was good.
I mean, that was, a few months late, because the jeans ad was, 3 months ago? But good for her.
Yeah, she's going to really use that to catapult her career. We also seen, oh God, what's the girl's name? I don't like her. She was in the Hunger Games.
Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence came out and said she's not going to talk politics anymore. She doesn't want to divide.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that's really, she might not be supporting Trump, but that's as good as you're going to get from a leftist. So they're starting to get the hint.
Yeah, that they at least should shut up about it and stop trying to influence people, because they don't even influence people anymore.
Yeah, that was a good statement by her, even though I don't necessarily like her.
No, I don't like her. And I can't stand her acting either. Walker says, I'm not a fan of Bukele. People still believe in him a lot, but he's really neglecting culture and academia. He never cared about them, and that's where the left does the most harm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is what most people should strive for, to take over, not over, but like to take hold of the culture and the education, because that is where you change people's minds, and that's where you actually teach people what bad and harm has been done to them via the current government.
Yeah, but it's not up to Bukele or a government to take over the media, and that's the problem. And that's why the United States populist movement was really something special. People got behind content creators, and the left didn't understand that space yet. So it really helped build the foundation for a conservative movement to really come up culturally. And I would really like to see it happen in Central America. That's why we do the show. I would like to see it happen in South America, but people are scared to talk politics. This is why I'm saying the movement here or in South America is going to have to be an online anonymous movement where people maybe don't show their names and faces, but speak what they feel and think.
And the left also didn't understand, as you've mentioned and we've said, the self-funding part of it all, because they were, like the left, the Democrats, and all of the NGOs were trying to fund their own content creators to say what they wanted, but that became way too obvious to the general public, to a public that had become accustomed to support the creators, support the voices that they wanted to be heard and that they wanted to support, instead of waiting for this big company or this big whatever to come in and start funding the creators that they liked.
Well, also the NGO money, when it was coming in, it was coming into the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, whether it was Mexico or South America. And a lot of these politicians and other organizations that were getting funneled this money were very corrupt. So they spent just a tiny portion of it on actually making the change and line their pockets with the rest. And when that money started getting cut off, they're like, oh shit, maybe we should have built a better foundation. Where you look at the conservative movement in the United States, a lot of content creators were using every dollar very smartly, and they had to run a profitable company.
And they were using it to further the ideas and the movement, and not themselves and their own power and what they wanted to do. And they understood that pretty well. Of course, some of them did, and some of them have big egos, but in the end, they did most of it. And I'm thinking, of course, of Charlie Kirk, but they did most of it for the ideals that they wanted to reach.
And I'll disagree with some of that. And that's like the Daily Wire and these big, I was just watching right before we went on the air.
Well, I didn't say Daily Wire.
Well, I was watching right before we went on the air. There's two basic models the conservative movement kind of made. And it's one where there's a company and they have content creators underneath them, and then they pay those content creators. That model, it doesn't actually have a profitable model unless they get outside donations. So that's why PragerU, The Daily Wire. Although I like these organizations, they're not profitable without outside donors, and that's more of a leftist model. You look at somebody like a Tim Pool or an individual content creator, a Brett Cooper, she's able to do it on her own with a very small staff. Megyn Kelly
she's
as well.
paid by Fox as well, but
Well, that's after.
okay. But no, Brett Cooper came in through the Daily Wire.
Yeah, but after she was able to separate and have a profitable model without the Daily
For a
Wire.
little bit.
So what I'm saying is individual content creators can make a profitable model with a small crew. These organizations like the Daily Wire, like PragerU, they have a model that's not actually profitable when people are looking at their books. They need outside donations, and it's coming in from foreign countries. Daily Wire, Israel, some of these other organizations are getting funding through other NGOs and
Christian
stuff like
and
that.
Catholic Church as well. I was going to say something else. Oh, but I was talking more about like Turning Point and being able to build a movement that actually spreads out almost by itself afterwards as well.
Yeah, but the reason I didn't agree with Turning Point, actually, I did like Turning Point, but the majority of they were getting big money from big countries coming into them. $190 million. They were captured after, that means.
Sure. He has theories and he doesn't like Israel.
It's not theories. Nobody's offering him $100 million for no reason.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is the way to start a movement properly is through, yes, you need a little bit of funding, but mostly by getting people engaged, especially the young people that then can carry on the movement alongside you instead of you having to do it all. But with content creation, it's different.
Yeah, but when you're looking at organizations and content creators, you want to really look at them. Are they independent and individual? Or of course they're going to take money after, but then you really got to question what opinions are their actual own, and what of those opinions are coming from that big money.
Mm-hmm. Rafa asks, Nat, why didn't you tell us that you were going to be with WDW Pro? Because it was like a comedy of errors yesterday. I wasn't sure if I was going to be on through no fault of their own, but then they let me know. Secondly, we forgot basically that there was a time change between Mexico City, who follows the time of God apparently, and the Eastern US, which is the time that they set for filming. So we weren't sure what time we might go on, and then we got the email a little bit later to join, so I just joined afterwards. Didn't have time to actually post elsewhere that I was going to be on there, but thank you for watching it if you did.
You're supposed to be on there every other Thursday, but they kind of sent you the schedule but never confirmed it. So you keep trying to confirm with them the Wednesday before, and they're never really getting back.
But it's through no fault of their own, and I do understand they have a lot going on, so completely understandable. And I also forget all the time about everything, so that's why, but thank you. And Walker asks, will there be a live stream today, Nat, on the Spanish channel? Yes, finally today I will continue to talk about...
You haven't been feeling good the last few days, so we've canceled at the last minute.
Yes. Before that, it was the internet, and yesterday I just was not feeling good. Feeling better today, we'll see. But today I am going to do the live stream as usual, 9:30 Mexico City time, and we will talk about what's going on with Michoacan, what's going on with the protests, and I am trying to line up some interviews with some interesting other creators, Mexican creators that have been speaking out about the protests, so hopefully that'll be interesting. But we have been talking a lot about creators, and now we have a story about them, and about the whole Ben Shapiro Daily Wire thing, and Tucker Carlson, which I'm about up to here with, but we have to report from the Megyn.
I'm not up to here because
I'm up to here because he continues to talk about
because this is the battle that's going on inside the conservative movement right now. They're trying to get ready for after Trump, and I know I've talked about it a lot today, but they want to bring it back to the old conservative movement, which is pro-war, anti-free speech. They want to say they're pro-free speech, but they want to put guardrails on it and say what's acceptable and not acceptable. They were calling conservatives Nazis for the longest time. Now they want to call them anti-Semitic if they have opinions that go against opinions of other people.
From the Megyn Kelly Show, I don't want to have a war with Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and whether he and Ben Shapiro can find a way to detente.
And Tucker Carlson had reached out to Ben Shapiro and tried to bury the hatchet, and Ben Shapiro just started a war.
Let's talk just for 1 minute about Ben Shapiro, because he too is under threat. I know you both very well, and I also really care about Ben. And you cannot see Ben without 6 armed guards. He said on the Daily Wire not long ago, and I think it was a great line. He said, if they kill Matt Walsh, God forbid, everybody will know who did it. Some crazed leftist. He said, if they kill me, it'll be like an Agatha Christie novel, like a mystery, where they won't know. Could be alt-right, could be far left. Like, he's got a lot of haters. And so there was this one brief shining moment after Charlie died where you guys kind of buried the hatchet and you...
I called him. I called him and Mark Levin, who I know well. He's obviously a lunatic, but he's a person. And I didn't want to fight. Well, yeah, obviously is, but I didn't want to fight with him at all. And I said to both of them, I called them the day after or 2 days after Charlie was killed from my backyard because I was really thinking about it and praying about it. And I was like, we agree on a lot, actually. And I'm not that interested in the topic of Israel. I'd be so glad never to hear the name again. I mean, I would be so glad. I would never mention it again. I'm not for more forever wars. Let's just stop that pressure, and I'll never mention it again. I'll never think about it again. You obviously care about it much more than I do. That's fine. But take that off the table, and we agree on a lot. So let's, not attack each other. And they didn't abide by those terms, but that's fine. They were under no
Mark
obligation.
Levin was literally attacking you within days of that. I remember when you had that conversation. We talked about
fine.
it. Within days.
That's fine. I don't care what
He's
Mark...
also out there calling me an anti-Semite. I don't even know what... I know at least what the accusations against you are. I have no idea what I did.
Is anyone thinking through the damage this is doing, like downstream? I don't think that Levin, again, there are things that Levin says that I agree with completely.
Okay,
but
enough about him, because he's truly, Mark Levin, you're like, oh, Mark Levin's angry again. What a shock. But is there any way that you and Ben Shapiro can actually find your way to détente?
I'm not against Ben Shapiro. He did like a 40-minute thing yesterday calling me dangerous and all this stuff. It's like, I didn't watch it because...
And pause it.
But
Tucker Carlson just said right there, he's willing to leave the Israel issue alone. He was willing to concede that. The problem is he was having problem with people from the further right, which was Nick Fuentes, and he tried to bury the hatchet with him as well, just like he did with Ben Shapiro. And he didn't even agree with Nick on everything, but Ben Shapiro took that as an assault on him and Israel himself. And that's absolutely ridiculous. All he did was interview Nick Fuentes so they could kind of bury the hatchet. The exact same thing he tried to do with Ben Shapiro. I like Tucker's tactics here, trying to make peace with everybody. The problem is everybody was not willing to make peace with him.
But I got a lot of texts about it, and it's like, I don't think Ben Shapiro is driving a lot of this stuff. I don't consider him like the world's greatest force for evil. I don't feel that way at all. I don't actually think about him ever. So I'm not attacking him. I saw him at Charlie's memorial service backstage, totally nice, and he looked a little uncomfortable, but I wasn't uncomfortable. I'm like a lunatic. I was like prattling on and telling him obscene jokes and all this stuff, and he was totally nice. A little appalled, but nice. And so I don't want to have a war with Ben Shapiro. I don't know does he really think that me doing an interview in which I explained that anti-Semitism is wrong to one of the lead purveyors of anti-Semitism, that somehow makes me a Nazi? Like, what is the argument here?
I'm going to ask him tomorrow night.
No, but I don't even understand what the argument is. All I know is that the right, and I've been on the right since before Ben was born, is acting like the left in such an amazingly precise way that I'm like,
okay,
what the hell is going on?
That's good. And the thing is,
I do agree
Ben Shapiro and the big money behind him and other figures are really battling for the future of the conservative movement, and they want to make it the conservative movement of old. This is going to be pro-war. This is going to put guardrails on speech. It's going to be anti-debate. Ben Shapiro, when they were at war with the left, was saying how important free speech was, how important it is to have debate and have the best ideas come to the top. Yet when he took target against other conservatives in the movement, he wanted to cancel them rather than debate them.
And Rafa says, I knew the missing live was supposed to be yesterday. Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. I disappeared once again, but I had a good reason for it.
I tried to force her to do it, but she really wasn't feeling well.
Yes,
so.
But here I am today, and I am slightly better. And Rafa says, Ben Shapiro should move to Israel and fight Islam himself.
Yeah,
if he wants to.
People just aren't buying it anymore, and that's the thing. So,
and since the start, I was tired with the whole discussion, and that's what I continue to say. I don't want to talk about it.
And it's just not all about Israel. It's a lot of it has to do with Netanyahu, him currently being involved in 7 wars. If Israel had more of a reasonable leader that was only involved in maybe 1 war, maybe even 2, instead of 7, people would find it a lot more palatable.
And returning to Canada and how the Liberals just essentially steal money from Canada. The Liberals are basically just thieves. 268 million of Canadians' tax dollars spent on the TBT, or 2 Billion Trees program, only for it to be abandoned. And from the Western Standard, it says Ottawa ends 2 Billion Trees program after 268 million and 6 years.
This is an extremely important thing because this is the green scam in action. Go back to the article, please. This is the green scam in action. They were planting trees. This is important because what does a tree do? It's a natural carbon capture device. Now they want to stop funding the trees, start putting these big carbon capture devices in that take a lot of electricity, a lot of big fans that pull carbon out of the air. Then they want to put that on a truck, go dig a hole, and then put the carbon in the ground. Look, I'm not for the green scam, but I would rather be planting trees than have a lot of electricity spent on these carbon capture devices being put on trucks and digging holes. It seems like they're just creating a whole new scam. Especially, I think planting trees is actually very good because Canada's majority of their carbon come from forest fires, and they're not willing to cut forest line. So if they would cut massive forest lines in their forest and then plant trees in safer areas to contain forest fires, they would dramatically reduce their carbon if that's what they're claiming they want to do. Instead, they want to stop planting trees.
Because nothing they do makes sense. But now we're heading over to RUMBLE. Please do like and subscribe here on YouTube. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so hopefully we can monetize, because it'll help us, and there's no point in lying about that. Rafa says, good thing that Brett Cooper sided with Tucker. Now I love her more. And I think Brett Cooper was put in an uncomfortable situation, but I did like that she came out to say that she likes Candace, she respects Ben for everything he did for her, and she's out of it.
Well, there was a rumor that Matt Walsh's contract was coming up, and Matt Walsh right now, they tried to put a lot of pressure on him to disavow Tucker. He refused to do it, so good on him. But the only real star left at the Daily Wire is Matt Walsh. Now, I do like
Ben, even
I do like Michael Knowles as well, but the issue is Matt Walsh is willing to have opinions of his own and actually go against the grain. The Daily Wire knows if they get rid of him, nobody's going to continue to watch Ben or the rest of the Daily Wire staff. They would have gotten rid of all their best stars because of differences of opinions. It looks like they're censoring speech, and that's why they can't get rid of Matt Walsh.
Yes. And Walker says, people stealing from causes, so left-wing. Exactly. And thank you, Rafa and Walker, for all your comments. We'll see you over at RUMBLE. And hold on. And it's ending now here on YouTube.
Okay, and I'm going to log into Rumble here.
Yeah, you said Rumble before it ended.
And you said it ended, so I did.
No, I said, and I'm ending it now.